of you who might not know me, I'm Neil. I'm Volz's youngest son. I'm the good-looking one. I suppose that goes without saying. Anyway, on behalf of our family, I would like to welcome and thank everyone who is here. We'd especially like to thank all of you who traveled from far distances. We're very grateful that you chose to celebrate Dad's life with us today. The last time I saw my dad was about 6 a.m. in the morning, hours before he passed away. Dad was receiving hospice care. His breathing was labored, but he was at peace. I remember he had a little American flag pillow laying on the bed next to him. He was a great dad. That morning I walked over to the bookshelf in his room and I pulled out the Bible. There was a bookmark, so I opened to the page and I started reading to Dad. The first verse I read to him that morning was in the book of James. James 1:2-4. It reads, "Count it all joy. Count it all joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of any kind, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." I love that verse. I've read that verse many, many times, but I have to say that for the next 5 or 10 minutes that morning, as I kept reading verses and talking to Dad, I couldn't really get the first 4 words of that verse out of my mind. Count it all joy. I mean, that's a pretty bold statement if you think about it. Count it all joy. Doesn't say just count the fun times as joy. Doesn't say just count Christmas morning as joy. Or count family vacations as joy. Or that time in Utah when we went to the Utah Buzz game and thousands of people were chanting, "Let's go Buzz! Let's go Buzz!" Joy. It says count it all joy. That means the bad times too, right? That means having joy through the pain, seeing the joy during the loss, and understanding that there's joy in our suffering. It was while I was having thoughts like that when it hit me. Counting it all as joy is one of the things that defined my dad. Embracing that count it all joy spirit is one of the things he did so well, and is such a key part of the legacy he leaves behind. I remember a few years after Dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I sat down with him. There was like a Michael J. Fox movie or a show or something going on, so the topic of Parkinson's was people were talking about it. Sat down, I remember looking at Dad and said, "Hey Dad, do you still laugh at Parkinson's jokes?" Without missing a beat, he looked at me and said, "If they're funny." I love that spirit of my dad. He loved to make people laugh. He loved encouraging people. He loved adding value to people's lives. He loved seeing us grow, and not just in the good times. When I was in first grade, I spent about a month in the hospital. It was pretty bad. I almost died. Yet the one memory I always have of that time is watching cartoons with my dad, and the two of us laughing so loud that the nurses actually ran into the room to see if I was okay. Now I look back on that, Droopy's a funny cartoon. I've seen Droopy, it's a funny cartoon. But what was really happening in the moment was about more than 2 people watching cartoons. It was about my dad bringing joy into a bad situation. Count it all joy. That spirit permeated every aspect of my dad's life. It was there when my mom and dad went out on their first date. It was there when Dad was helping his clients, teaching his students, or hanging out with his friends and his much-loved family. It was there during the 3 years when Dad lived in assisted living at Glendale Place, where Dad was known for his joyful spirit and making everybody laugh. It was there when Dad was coaching our baseball, basketball, and soccer teams. It was even there when he took my brother and I and a dozen or so Boy Scouts to the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota for a week-long trip that included that wonderfully stressful moment when one of the guys ran up to Dad and said, Mr. Volz, my dad just had a heart attack. Or that moment when Dad took our Little League baseball team to Riverfront Stadium and one of the guys turned up missing. Until one of the other guys pointed to the far side of the stadium and said, "There he is, Mr. Volz. He's waving to us from under the scoreboard." Now, I'm not sure if any of you have hustled 10 9-year-olds through a stadium or paddled the lakes of Minnesota in utter panic, but something tells me joy might not have been right there at that moment. But eventually, like always, Dad showed the rest of us how to even turn moments like that into joy. I saw Dad do the same thing with me. It happened when I was in one of the lowest moments in my life. I'd lost my job, got a divorce, made a bunch of mistakes which had caused people I cared about a lot of pain. I was hurting. Yet over and over again, Dad encouraged me and said life would get better. He showed me unconditional love. He even organized a long weekend with my brother at a retreat center in West Virginia, where the three of us hung out, talked, and did what Volz men do. We engaged in the most epic ping pong tournament in history. The tournament took many twists and turns before ultimately ending in dispute, controversy, and threats of legal action. Which is really just another way of saying my brother won fair and square and Dad didn't like it. Long story short, that weekend helped save my life. And I will always be grateful. Not just for that moment, but for all the moments. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for counting it all as joy. We love you. We miss you. We look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.
I'm not the other side. I'm simply his brother. We are here to say goodbye to Buzz. But this is also a time of remembrance. I'm sure that many of you have memories of Buzz, and some just might include a bit of humor. One of my favorites is from my sophomore year at UC. A carload of pikes from the Alpha Psi chapter house left to attend the wedding of a fraternity member. The ceremony took place at a Protestant church in Hyde Park. As we entered, we were ushered down the aisle on the groom's side. Across the sanctuary, there were a number of the bride sorority sisters who had attracted our undivided attention. Buzz, our leader, picked a pew, and without giving us a heads up, genuflected before entering. The rest of us, eyes still glued across the sanctuary, toppled over him, and tumbled in the aisle. So much for impressing the young people from our senior procession. During his days at UC and for the next 50 years, Buzz was active in our fraternity. He did not need to be elected or appointed. He simply stepped up, did whatever needed to be done. He showed us his strength as a leader. He offered thoughts on how we might solve a problem or undertake a project. His approach, though, was much like that of the Dalai Lama. If the idea doesn't make sense to you, just leave it here. Buzz was simply planting the seed, asking you to think and to take another look. In 2000, Buzz was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Just over 3 years ago, he moved into Glendale Place. I visited. It was difficult, though, to predict if he would be in his room, in physical therapy, or simply not feeling up to head and coming. I shared my frustration with Gabe. She immediately invited Karen and me to join her and Buzz's family, who visited him every Saturday morning. Wow, what a difference the day makes. After a few weeks, we officially became members of the Saturday Morning Club. On most Saturdays over the past 2 years, we visited along with Gabe, his sisters Jody and Jerry, brother-in-law Jack, son Lynn and his wife and their 3 children, Lily, Brennan, and Brady. Buzz's pride and joy. Son Neil and his wife, Pam, came from Florida to visit. Other family members, friends, and the staff at Glendale Place often stopped by. Relatives of other patients joined in the fun. And Buzz was the chairman of the board. Those Saturday mornings were great therapy for him and for all of us. For Buzz, family was everything, but his definition of family included so many. And once you were part of his family circle, you were there forever. He exemplified the words of Norman Vincent Peale, who said, "The way to happiness is to keep your heart free from hate, your mind free from worry. Live simply, expect little, and give much. Scatter sunshine, forget yourself, and think of others." Buzz's family included a number of brothers, fraternity brothers. A small group of those brothers recognized his lifetime commitment to the importance of education and his dedication to the fraternity by funding the Joseph R. Buzz Volz Endowed Scholarship Fund. That group gathered with Buzz and his family at Glendale Place in August of 2014 and surprised him with this honor. A Buzz Volz Scholarship will be awarded to a deserving UC student every year in perpetuity. Over the past couple of years, we have learned that sometimes, in fact most times, the best thing we could do for Buzz was simply to be there, to show our support and compassion. The Saturday Morning Club was his club. He was our hero. He did so much for so many, without fanfare, without any expectation of personal gain. He was happy to be who he was, his own person, never searching for the spotlight. Thank you, Buzz, for the joy you brought us, the lessons you taught us, and for all the great memories. To me and so many, you were one of life's richest blessings. We will miss you, but you won't be forgotten.